Hey, what's up guys? This is Ryan at Wake World Parts, and today we're doing a steering cable. I'm going to show you how to remove and install a steering cable on your boat. So today we're doing a rack. It's an extreme rack, and these are typically in almost every wakeboarding boat unless you have a hydraulic system. And we do have the end that goes to the rudder. So this goes to the helm, and this goes to the rudder or tiller arm, right? So this cable is so bad, I cannot push or move it. And what happens here is they're sealed on both ends. And this cable is 24 feet long, because I'm working on a 24-foot boat. Normally you can run like a 22 or whatever because you're not running the full length of the boat. But the longer it is okay. The shorter it is, you're kind of screwed. You can't make your reaches, right? You can't make the distance that you need to go. So this cable is sealed. And because it's sealed, what happens is over time, the lubricant inside, there's a bunch of metal bands in here, or like wires, and they're steel wires, and as you go back and forth, the lubricant wears itself out. We're in San Francisco Bay today, so what's happened is the salt water has pretty much destroyed this cable a little sooner than normal. Also, what happens is if you take on water in your boat, right, when this is sliding in and out, if this is underwater, you're basically over time pushing water into the cable as well. So these do go out. I mean, if you take really good care of the boat and you don't get a lot of water in there, you're looking 5+ years. Water, salt water, you're going to minimize that, right? So here's a brand new cable. As you can see, 2 fingers, not even trying. I can do it with 1 finger. So we are going to put this in, which is going to give him all of his steering back. Today we are in San Francisco Bay, and we are doing a steering cable. Already undone it. I should have waited a little bit to show the video, but I've already undone it. But normally what happened is I came out here and this was locked. I couldn't even turn it. Normally what happens is you can spin your steering wheel like this. As it gets stiffer, you got to kind of put pressure on it, and over time it gets to where you can't turn it at all and you're holding it. This one was so bad I couldn't even turn left or right that much. The cable's locked up, and that's because we're in the bay, right? So there's a lot more salt water. With this, you have your bracket here, and this goes underneath the boat and directly to this location here. It's 4 bolts, which I have right here in my hand. You have this bolt here, and all you're going to need is a socket with a 7/16 inch deep socket, or you could use a shallow. For this, the bolts are, the nut is on the top, right, or the head is on the top. You're not unscrewing it from way back here, right? You're going to take those 4 out, and then this will drop out of there. Come to the back of the boat. Normally these will be 9/16 on both sides, but on this one it's a 3/4 bolt and 9/16 bolt. And what it does is it's going to attach to what's called a tiller arm, and your tiller arm is right here. So what that does is that allows the rudder to move back and forth and turn the boat from the steering wheel from the cable. You have your arm for your steering cable right here, which will go into that nut right there. When I put it back together, it's the same as taking it apart, and you'll just slide your bolt through there and hold it in place. You don't need to over tighten this as well. This is not supposed to be tight. It has a locking nut, and that locking nut is what's going to hold it in place. The one fun part is you have to get to that nut right there in order to get the steering cable out. And they're always somewhere fun and exciting, and they're not always easy to get to. This one I'm able to do less than a 1/4 turn at a time. I don't even think I can get this in there. If I can get this guy on there. So there I am. That's what I get. Probably a little over a 1/4 turn, but it depends on which way the wrench is facing. And I have to keep doing that back and forth until I can get this off of there. So I got to be able to get that out of there. And then once I get that out of there, I'll show you the next step. All right, so what you want to do first is make sure you pull it out of that sleeve. Another very important thing is don't ever disconnect those bolts, loosen those bolts, or move those bolts. This bar is set specifically where it needs to be to get the rotation out of the rudder that you need. And then the other thing is you want to make sure you pull it out of there. And then what I do is, because I'm by myself, I have a rope. So I take the rope, I put it through this eyelid, and then what I do is I'll tape it. And also what you want to do, even though this is stuck and it's not going to move, I normally will still tape this to keep it from sliding, because if I start pulling it and that slide pulls it out any longer, what happens is the area that you got to pull that cord through, that length gets longer, and the next thing you know, you're hitting the ground and you can't pull it out. So always make sure you tape this off. Okay, so now I've got this taped off. As you can see, this isn't sliding anymore, so I taped it here, even though this thing's not moving at all. I can't budge it. And then I always tape off this knuckle, and then I put a lot of tape here. So what I do is I twist the tape and roll it around so it makes a ball, and what that does is it helps prevent it from catching anything when I'm pulling it back through the boat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rope, leave it back here, pull this out, and pull it all the way to the back. And then that way I have something to pull it back through the same route I pulled it out of. So now what I'm hoping for is that while I pull this, that I don't get caught in anything. So we always try to bill at least 4 hours. Sometimes they can take 8. And what that is it's because it's how the boat was built. And what that means is the person who built it could have strapped it down. So 24 feet, and I'm probably running 22 feet of cabling here. They could have strapped it to the stringer with zip ties. They could have strapped it to the wiring harness with zip ties. So you can't just pull it all the way through. I may get lucky, but if I get lucky, it's because I got lucky. But most of the times they're because you're going to get stuck on something. So the goal here is to pull it and hopefully just keep it coming. If not, then the video will be stopped, and then I'll go ahead and run the cabling and pull it back and show you how I pull it back. All right, I got it through. There's my rope, and my rope's going to go all the way back. And there were zip ties. There was one way under there, one at the very far back, and then one up here. So I had to reach in these holes, cut the zip ties, and pull it through. I got very lucky. Also, you don't want to just keep pulling as hard as you can, because you have to remember this rope is going to take you back the same way. This is a non-removable floor. So some boats you can remove the floor, some of them you can't. You cannot remove this floor. So because I cannot remove this floor, running that rope saves me so much time, and I just run it right back the same way I pulled it out. What I'm going to do is I'm literally going to pull that whole cable through here, feed it back into that hole, pull it all out that way, lay it over the edge, and then pull it with the rope all the way back. Do not yank on it, pull on it, grab it. There's cables, wires, wire loom, everything running down here. Okay, so now we're getting ready to pull the cable back through. I have my new cable. I have my rope that I use to pull it through, because once again, I'm by myself. So we're gonna feed this through, and then we're gonna tape it off. Normally I just put a couple twists in it, just like an electrician would do. I'm using yellow tape to put it back. Not that that's anything. I pulled red to pull it through. This was just the first thing I found in my bag. And then what you want to do is make sure you tape it really well, because you can just cut this rope. You know what I mean? You don't have to save this rope. Plus I still have like 30 feet of the rope new. So I'll just tie it back up. We'll get it in there. And then once you do that, this is a new cable. So as I was explaining earlier, what'll happen is as I pull this rope, I'm going to extend this cable. The problem with that is some of these, mine's a straight shot, so I got lucky. I'm going to go through the Helm as you saw, and then straight back. Most of them, Sangers and other boats like that, Centurion, they're going down through a hole, and because they're going down through a hole, they have to turn, right? So there's no way you're going to get this in that hole. It has to be the shortest distance. That's how they made it. So this will get you to make that turn and pin it, pull it under. But as soon as it does that, you're not going to do it. I've done 100, 200 of these, to be honest. So we want to make sure that we collapse this all the way. Take your electrical tape, and then once again, if you want to do it one time, just who cares how much tape you put on it. Main thing is just remember where your end is. So when you pull the tape off, it's not that difficult. So what I'm going to do here is show you something as well. So once I'm taping it to the knuckle, because if I tape it to the knuckle, it can't pull itself out, right? So I'm going to tape it to the knuckle here. And because I'm going that way, you can see that I have a flat ridge right here. That's going to catch everything under the boat as I pull it through. So a quick trick is you can just twist your tape and it balls it up quicker, so you don't have to use as much tape to fill in that gap. What that's going to do is when I go to pull it back through, I now am more like a pyramid than just a straight edge. So now I won't catch as badly, or if I do, it will slide through a lot easier. So I already know my end's right there, and then as you can see, it now has like a beveled edge, and so I'll be able to pull it through, tapered or whatever you want to call it. I got it going this way, and now it'll make it easier for me to pull through. Okay, so I've routed the cable back through. What I don't want to do is hook this up right now. Number one is I got to make sure my steering wheel is straight. So this one has a logo, so I know this is up. So you don't want it like turned to the side, or really it's your preference of where you want this to be, right? So I'm not going to hook this up until last. So now I've got my cable set up. I've pulled it back through with my rope. And what I have it doing here is it's just going to go over the bow of the boat, hang over, because I'm by myself once again, and then I'm ready to pull through. So what I'm going to have to do is in stages, right? Because I got to get the slack out. So I'm going to go over there, pull the slack out, then slowly pull this through. I may feed it through a little bit, you know, to guide it before just pulling it with the rope. So here we go, get started. Here we are. Now we pulled the rope all the way back through. I've got my cable back here, brand new cable. My phone fell while I was trying to film it, and but I pulled it back through. There was a couple complications, like I said. And now what I want to do is just take this guy and feed it right back through that knuckle. So because I didn't move this at all, I'm going to be able to line that right back up. So remember, this is where we're going to hook it up first before we hook it underneath the steering wheel of the Helm, and we just want to go here first, run it back through this tube. Also, as you can see, there's that little stopper on the end. So basically that helps to prevent water and stuff like that from intruding, makes the hole smaller so that it can't fill with water. They actually make rubber ones, and they make ones that are made out of this material. So basically what you could do is take a zip tie it, and then as you move the steering wheel, it opens and closes this, so there's no water that can get in there at all. All right, so I've got the bar back in. I've tightened that down. The bar's sticking out, and now all I've got to do is simply just mount it back to this pivot point. Once again, you do not want, try to see if I can do this with two hands under here. You don't want this tight because it should be able to move back and forth. So the tighter it is, the harder it is for this to turn. See, because it's got to turn with the flow of the rudder, or it's going to be facing a different direction. So you don't want to over tighten this, because then all you're doing is stiffening your steering when you don't really need to. So because I didn't move the bar, I'm simply going to be able to just put this right back in here with one hand because there's no way for me to get a tripod in here. And then I just want to make sure that I align this guy back up with that. There we go. And there you go. Okay, so now that I've got this connected, the thing I want to do is make sure that I go back. I'm on the water right now, so I'm gonna have to walk back to his house and look back, but I want to make sure my rudder is straight. So there we go. Our rudder is straight ahead, which is then going to allow me to make sure that I now align the steering wheel so that the steering wheel is facing the right direction. All right, so now we're back here at the steering wheel. Our steering wheel is facing straight up and down. Now we can go ahead and do the final part here. Take this off, and now we're going to mount this directly up. Now it's time to go ahead and mount our steering rack back up. Get all of our bolts ready. We want to make sure we put it back the same way we took it out. There's our circle. It's going around. I put a zip tie there, and then I zip tied it to the hose. And then, like I said, if you get vibration, all you do is pull it, make the circle smaller, and it will take the vibration out of your steering. You can do this with other boats as well. Doesn't matter the age or the year. You can just buy the same length cable as your boat, do a loop like this, and then if you have vibration in it, just pull the circle smaller. You'll probably have to add more zip ties because that one zip tie isn't going to hold this in a small circle. And that's it for underneath the dash. Now before I couldn't turn this wheel at all. I could go like this and like that. And then like I said, if it gets stiffer, you're having to put your whole hand on it. If your steering is 100% good, you should be able to take it and do that. Take it and do that. Now if I have to take it and do that, or I have to take my finger and I can't let it go, or I have to grab the steering wheel and turn it, then you've got bad steering. I should be able to let my steering wheel just go. This is a 24-foot cable in a 24-foot boat, and it's spinning better than a car. So that is a good steering system for the boat, and that was our problem all the way.